Thank you so much to Shelf Life Books for honoring this moment in time for Charlie Petch. I would also like to say hello, everyone. Hi. I can't see some of you right now, or Mary's turned off. So is Shannon and Kitty and Lori and Marjorie and Michelle. But thank you for coming. And I think you're going to really enjoy this hour and 15 that we're going to share. I would like to say that Charlie Petch has been someone that I have known for, what would you say, Charlie? Maybe 15 years or so, or yeah. And it's always been a very positive interaction between us. And I just love them as a person. And so it's a great honor to be here. I'd also like to invite everyone to put questions in the chat, you know, the little chat doodah at the bottom of the screen. Please add, or somewhere to the side of the screen, I think Charlie's suggesting. Please add questions, and after the reading, Charlie will answer those questions as a Q&A. I'd also like to invite you all on October the 31st to the Dogwood Rose open mic, Scary Poems. Sign up early. You'll find it on the Calgary Spoken Word Facebook page, also on the website, and also on my website. And so I will read a quick poem as I am Charlie's warm-up act. And I've decided to do an older poem because I thought it might be fun. And I wrote this poem in Victoria when I was living there. I maybe was, I don't know, maybe I was 19 or 20. And I didn't actually write the poem when I was 19 or 20. I wrote it when I was like 27. But this is what happened in Victoria at that time. And it's called Bunhead to Bard. After a hard day of dancing, I'd pass the Bay Parkade every day. I'd drag my worn-out bunhead butt home to lucky number 3, my $75 a month room tomb with the shared yellowing bathroom. Silas, the concert pianist turned junkie, lived down the hall. After a hard day of dancing, I'd pass Chinatown and I'd raid the dumpsters for tofu, and I'd buy a bag of fortune cookies for a broken moment of hooky from reality. Feeling like a disintegrating princess doll, castle walls caving in, tutu askew, and a slew of unsatisfactory fortunes in a bowl. After a hard day of dancing, I'd come home to lucky number 3, and I'd crack cookie after cookie, looking for the perfect fortune. And then I'd dream of being a writer one day. And then I'd take my towel and I'd go down the hall to the shared yellowing bathroom there, and I'd have a bath, and I'd laugh to myself because I could never spell. How could I be a writer? By the way, I can still not spell. Unless I had a table to write on. Yes, a room of one's own. Yes. So the next day I went to the Sally Ann to look for a table to take away home to lucky number 3 to write on. I found the perfect one, round with flaps that swing down. And I say to the Sally Ann man, this is my table, the perfect one for me, but there's no way I can get it home to lucky number 3. And the Sally Ann man says, well, why don't I tie it onto your back? You can carry it home, maybe write a poem or something. Seemed like a good idea at the time. He tied the rope around my leotards and tights, and off I trudged, looking somewhat circus-like with a twist. By the time I got to the Bay Parkade, I started feeling the table's weight like Gregor in Kafka's Metamorphoses, and my bladder was in a slightly urgent state. By the time I got to lucky number 3, I thought I was going to break down and pee my leotards and tights all over the floor in front of my door. I reached for my keys desperately, and then, incredulously, I realized I'd locked myself out. Now my worst nightmare kicks in, which takes this scene on another downward spin. The Sally Ann man tied the knots on the other side of my flaps, on the other side of my wooden wings, and there was no way I could reach them to untie the fucking things. Now I was tied to my own table. In a sense, I was eternally trapped, strapped to my own muse, standing in front of lucky number 3 with the rising necessity to break down and pee. I walked down the hallway to the shared yellow wing bathroom there, and I ripped down my leotards and tights through the roped up snare. And then I gyrated towards the toilet bowl, peeing all over myself, missing the hole. How can this be happening to me? I started to cry, and I heard myself yell down the hallway, why? I maneuvered my dance gear back up. And now with pee all over me, all I could think of was getting back to lucky number 3. By now, the table was just too much to hold. So I thought, I know, just jump backward onto the tabletop for rest. Yes, just jump backward. That would be best. Wait for something to happen. Someone will help. Yes. But once on top, there was no way I could get back on my feet. And when my landlord finally found me locked up, tied up, and locked out, tied up, and smelling outhouse sweet, there was absolutely no way I could be discreet. After he released me from the table's ugly hold, he said, if I could be so bold, how'd you like a date sometime? And I said, no, I can't. No, I can't. I've got to set up my table and write. I've got to write to write. I've got to write to write. I've got to write. I've got to write. So that's a little blast from the past. And I know that some of you in the room know that poem intimately because you knew me when I wrote it. And so that's why I thought it would be fun. And it was fun also for me today because I walked on the beach. And as I was walking on the beach, a young girl came up to me to admire my dog Willow, and we started speaking. It turns out she's a creative writing student, and I said, oh, you're studying creative writer? And she said, yes, one day I will be an author. And I was like, oh, that's really fantastic. I said, really? Well, and I think you will, because with that kind of, commitment in your voice, you're definitely going to be an author. And I invited her to come to this reading tonight, but I see she's not here. So maybe she won't be an author. And now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to present to you Charlie Petch, they, them, he, him, is a disabled, queer, trans, masculine, multidisciplinary artist who resides in Tkaronto, Toronto, a poet, playwright, librettoist, musician, lighting designer, and host. Petch was the 2017 Poet of Honor at Speak North, the winner of the Sheri-D Golden Beret Lifetime Achievement in Spoken Word Award, and the League of Canadian Poet, and the founder of Hot Damn, It's a Queer Slam. Petch is a touring performer as well as a mentor and workshop facilitator. They have a new book, and that's what we're celebrating tonight, Why I Was Late, and it's out with Brick Books. They have also been working on a libretto, and it's called Medusa's Children, and it's written for Opera Q. You will find much more on www.charliepetch.com. I'll put that in the chat bar. And please don't forget to put questions in the chat bar for later. And so here he is, Charlie Petch.
Charlie, I believe you are muted. Charlie, you're muted.
Hey, okay. I was just going on and on about you, Sheri-D, but now that I've said it, I'll just move on. I was like, the chat's blowing up. Wow, like it's just people telling me I'm on mute. Anyway, I was as I was saying, not only Sheri-D, the Mama of Dada, and one of the greatest spoken word artists out there. Also, Sheri-D is a wonderful archivist of spoken word and like moving forward visionary of spoken word in Canada. So it is an immense honor to have you join me at this book launch of mine. So thank you so much, Sheri-D. And thank you, of course, to Shelf Life Books and believing in this book launch. And I was hoping to be out west. I was going to be on the Winnebago A Go-Go tour. But things do not always work out the way you think. And that's been a resounding sort of thing for the past 20 months of our lives, certainly. But I'm super happy to be here, to be performing for you, for everybody who has come to say hello, say hi. And I just adore so many of you, like Mary and Kitty and Shannon and Samantha and Michelle and like everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and some new friends. And yes, I should also let you know where I am coming from. I'm in Toronto, Tkaronto, and these are the territories of the Anishinaabe, of the Huron-Wendat, the Mississaugas, of the New Credit, and the Anishinaabe people. And I guess like also, not just recognizing where we've come from, which is something I did not grow up with, right? We didn't get that in school. So it's, we really have to be vigorous and self-directed in finding our true histories and histories of Indigenous people in this land. I myself am a white settler of Ukrainian, Cossack, Polish, Jewish, and Irish descent. And yeah, I guess like right now, I'm thinking of Fairy Creek. Fairy Creek, as some of you know, is a old growth forest out west in the unceded territories, and they, the RCMP were there. There was like a clash going on, and then we're like, everything's fine, and then like everybody went back, and then the RCMP, that it became clear that they were coming back. So there are people holding down that old growth forest once again, sort of back to the beginning of what they worked so hard to disrupt and protect. So if you, to be in solidarity with Indigenous people, please amplify their causes, much like hashtag Fairy Creek. Or if you can go show up, holy moly. And so I, decolonization has hurt us all. And I guess I really want to work against that. And this book certainly tries to undo a lot of falsehoods that we've been told, that we've been comfortable with, especially myself as a white settler for so long. This book is Why I Was Late. And it is with Brick Books. I'm so happy to see Kitty Lewis here. Hi, Kitty Lewis. And who really, put Brick Books on the map and did, ran so we could shine, kind of thing. And so I'm really honored to have you here, Kitty. And I had some wonderful editors. I had Nick Thran, and also Andrea Thompson. And what is special about that is, as spoken word artists, we are often, you know, our idea of publishing is being on Button Poetry or being on Slam Find, or like, how many hits do we have on YouTube, because it is an oral tradition. And of course, oral history traditions are rooted in Black and Indigenous arts. And to recognize that, to recognize where we come from. And so spoken word doesn't often get published because we are not always motivated to publish, because we don't always know how to translate our words to the page. And maybe it feels strange to even see them there. But I know, working with both of these editors, and in particular, Andrea Thompson, who is one of our top spoken word artists and has been for a long, you know, forever. She was an editor in particular because she is a spoken word artist. So when you get the book, and please order from Shelf Life Books, or directly, you know, if you're not in Calgary and far away from this amazing bookstore, you can always go to Brick Books, and there is a little shop local button, and you can find which local bookseller has this. So yeah, I'm just gonna start. I say that like 10 minutes in. I'm just gonna start now, as if it's, and I wanted to start with, this is the first poem that got published of mine, and it was published in the second last issue of Descant. So I was really honored to do that, and that was what started making me think that maybe my stuff could be published. So this is called My First Boyfriend. Years before you killed someone, you pulled my drunk friend out of the water, breathed mist on a dock. I handed you my sweater, watched you pull your shirt over your head, lights lapping at Lakewater chest. Years before you killed someone, your mouth full of shy, you gave me a beaded bracelet that was so mismatched, I knew your sister didn't help. And just like a little caveat for that, like, I know women just don't like do really great bracelets as like some natural thing that they're born into. She was just actually like a really fashionable and amazing person. I probably had a crush on her. Okay, anyway. Years before you killed someone, we were barefoot, calloused with summer. You held sumac to my face, inhaled its iced tea fragrance. Years before you killed someone, I sat in your room, tortured Ethel, the action figure, until your little brother came in, mocked you for playing with girl stuff, and I laughed at you too. Years before you killed someone, I listened to kids who told me that you were a loser, friends I never had, ones I secretly wanted. I cracked your 12-year-old heart, put the bracelet back into your hand, the one I used to hold. Years later, your parents left you too, sent you to military school. Not everyone can raise the children they get. I went to your birthday party, ended up hiding in a washroom for fear of military boys who grab at breasts, impressed with ammo talk, hold women like weaponry. You were lost to be found, accepting payment to kill a stranger, his wife cloying you with sumac breath, a chance to be bully. You bragged about it to a girl who was so impressed she called the cops. Before you killed that man, maybe the world felt like prison. Every escape attempt, another clanging door, girls' laughter like lockdown. I remember the boy you might have been, stepping carefully past sumac. Did you know it was poison then? That enemies smell sweetest. That betrayal is a part of growing up. That my first boyfriend started off heroic. Thank you. One thing I'd like to say about, thank you, Sheri-D. One thing I'd like to say about this book is, you know, as a transmasculine person, there's so many poems rooted in masculine identity and masculine observance as well, because, you know, very much, because we didn't have access, I didn't have access to language to know I could be a non-binary masculine person. I never really felt like a girl, and I was always entranced by men and sort of studying them, you know, and so in many ways I got lost into into the guy I thought I was supposed to be, or like how to fit in with men. And you know, the way you do that sometimes is steeped in misogyny. And so a lot of this book is sort of unlearning that inclination. And I hope that men buy this book, and that they learn, sort of see some like openings for like how to come back, or like expect that you can, and how to survive outside of these strange parameters we've given each other within gender and power and expectation. So, having said that, I would like to move on to a poem about a gay robot. Thank you. We're going to go over here, and I'm going to move all the sound equipment around, so it'll get a little quiet for a bit, and then it'll get louder again. That is the technical term for it. Thank you. So, my book is a little different than most poetry books I've seen, because I actually write out if I play music, I'm also a musician. So if I'm playing music in the poem, I decided that it was really important to include what that would sound like or look like, to go with the poem, so that you can like really enter into it in the way that we normally would during a show. Okay. Push that in. That's better. Damn. Okay. Okay. So for this one, it says, to be accompanied by a ukulele and musical saw loop pedal build done to the tune of Can't Take My Eyes Off You by Bob Crewe and Bob Gaudio. So we'll do that now. Oh, what? Let's just do that again. I tried to be really cool and look up during it. I'm not that good. Okay. Dear C-3PO, I always thought you were gay. I imagined that there was a little glorious hole in R2-D2, that when you made love, he made those happy little sounds. Maybe he would turn his head all the way around to try and read joy in your manufactured face. I always thought you a top, that R2-D2 whispered love songs that didn't sound pre-programmed or desperate or othering. C-3PO, was your golden exterior made up of melted down wedding rings tossed into vats at training schools, the sheddings of those ready to die, these galaxy warriors who laughed at what made you feminine, which sounds like hesitation, which sounds like we are afraid to feel. How you must have keened every time your lover went to war, became a plug in another machine as unprotected as a jet wing. Your gold-plated face never told us that behind the joke was a man in love with a soldier. I felt your tears, my sweet, though your face betrayed nothing. Thank you. That was Dear C3PO. Oh, there it is. Okay, excellent. So this next one is called Eat, Pray, Love. I'm just going to make sure in the chat that everybody can hear me okay. Okay, great. Okay, good. So the instructions for reading this next one, here we go. Okay, I would just like to say that, you know, if your friend is going through a terrible divorce and they can't leave the country or even like take a couple of days off of work, please don't recommend that they read the following book, Eat, Pray, Love. It was awful. I was like on the subway, like, you know, having to go all the way across town because I had to leave my home. And I would like be reading this fucking book and I was like, where's my fucking Italy? Where's my gelato? Where's my year off of this shit? Anyway, so I wrote a poem called Eat, Pray, Love, P-R-E-Y, and it says, to be performed with insect voice and stance. Okay, so we'll just, okay, here we go, okay. Victor, 6 hours of straight lovemaking is a lot. While I recognize that our species of praying mantis needs to propagate, I just got really tired and hungry. I appreciate that you brought us some soft-bellied flies to dine on, and even a cricket to play a back-leg tune until you ate that too. Maybe it's a bit old-fashioned to expect you to provide the food, to have punished you for my empty digestive tract, but let's face it, I was always going to be a single mom. My own mother taught me many things. Like decapitating your partner during copulation helps them to ejaculate. Like that as praying mantises don't actually have to pray. Like death is a part of life. Like love doesn't last unless it is broken down by enzymes in the midgut, digested into protein and passed along to the next generation. I'm told your son has your eyes, your beady black eyes. But I had them first, and then I had the rest of your head and your delicious thorax. I'm so sorry, Victor, but 6 hours is a long time for a quickie. Thank you so much. So maybe I'll just come up. I feel very apart from you all. I'm gonna come up because there's no music for this next one. Here we go. Let's get back into this setup. That's nice. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So right now, so I worked in film and television, as you might have picked up by my incredible lighting setup that I have right now. I worked in film and television, and there we go. And oh, that's really nice. That just got really tonal. And yeah, so I did lighting, and this poem, it's called Electric, and it sort of occurs in a time like back when, you know, the original coronavirus, which was SARS, happened in Toronto. So that was like in 2002 or 2003 maybe. Anyway, so SARS happened in Toronto. The dollar became on par with the American dollar. And at the same time, Toronto got rid of film incentives and tax breaks for people doing film in Toronto. So what ended up happening is that all of the we had 2 film unions, we still have 2 film unions in Toronto, and we were fighting over scraps at that point because who wants to film in Toronto? And so what happened was our 2 film unions started trading in our own sleep hours. Like that was one of the things that got put on the table, that there used to be, it was like a 50-hour turnaround for a weekend, and it became 30 hours. And what happened after that was that people just, everything got really harder and rougher. And if you were a weekend cocaine person, you became an everyday cocaine person, because how else do you stay awake for the amount of hours that we have? And so right now, actually, there is IATSE in the United States is on strike because they're starting to say, like, hey, these hours are ridiculous and it's inhuman. And so, you know, art and life crossing over. So this is called Electric. Having touched the back of a bare wire neon sign, you flew, woke in a graceless clump, and went right back to work. Film punks with power, we carried ourselves larger than lightning, hoped waterproofing worked, prayed no inspector would check for safety. Who needs a harness when you have an 8-ball in your brain, a truck full of fuck you're tough, a bare-knuckle apartment, windowsills of booze, and supine mirrors too dusty to reveal the collage of scars that used to look like you? The union sells our sleep. The producer no longer looks at us hard enough to tell the insurance what could have prevented this terrible accident. Somehow the world is our film set. We have power over power, park trucks, spiderweb cable lines, guests at regulation, thinking that 3 hours of sleep can fuel your 18-hour day. Fuck a truck, your balls shoot nails, you hit the rails in front of you, no one expects you to be human. Your family left the zombie that ate your brain. Fuck them, fuck that bitch, now we just stay on TV, live your life in film tricks. Fuck this life that took your kids that watch you sleep at the zoo, yell when the car pulls onto the shoulder, or dreams into oncoming traffic. When the film wraps, when the truck parts are rolled out, counted, shoved back into buildings full of men who know our names, but not our names. For once, you get enough sleep. Upon waking, turn on the show to catch the credits, laugh at the names of our union family, the only ones we have patience for anymore. For a second before passing out, there's a sensation that you used to be someone else, before the union bartered us, shortened our lives. Turn off the television, see yourself reflected, a hollow man trapped in a blank glass headstone. Thank you. Yeah, film took over my life. I was a zombie if I wasn't in film. And my art suffered. You know, you go in there thinking like, I'm gonna learn how to do film, and then I'm gonna be a director, and then I'm gonna do these things, and then you realize, no, you're not. You're a grunt, and you are surrounded by big burly men who want you to feel that this is not your place. And some of them are amazing. Some of them are not so amazing. Please refer to the Me Too movement. So next up, I put that over there. 1 second. Okay. Oh, yes. So, one wonderful person I met in film was my husband. I was married. Hi, Mary Pinkowski. Next time I'll marry Pinkowski. Anyway, I was married to a man, yeah, I was doing full-time drag at the time as a woman. It was going really well. Anyway, so this book is also a bit about that grief. I don't know if anybody has had someone have a heart attack in their life, or like a major thing. And when that happens, sometimes you know, your whole body goes into a depression after. And with my husband, I really truly believe that when his heart stopped, there was some brain damage that happened as well because of his actions. And how he was with me after and how he was with everybody in his life. And it was a really heartbreaking thing to see. And he had another heart attack and didn't wake up that time. And so there's a few poems about that. And this is a poem called 1 Year Since Your Death. I remember us, arms across bellies, legs draped over lap, or fitting puzzle piece folded good night. Next, I feel you in my lungs, the spasms of laughter, the harmonies of songs, the breath on cheeks. I hear you, and mandolins strummed, one more song, matty backyard nights, how you made us sound like stars, moments of eyes over violas, ballads of I love you. When I hear our music on the radio now, it feels like I'm slipping downstairs. I don't care about how we broke, how our marriage became a sputtering jalopy leaking fluid in withered sunshine. It's been a year of going backwards in time, of watching you get further from me, of finding you in the strangest places, of falling in love with our moments when we were in love. Yeah, so that's for Maddie, Maddie, my hubby. And I think we go, what? I'm just gonna play the viola for a second. I don't know, feels weird. I'm gonna have to go over here. Okay. Just because I don't want to do a poem just yet. I'm just having a moment. Thank you. Okay. So I think I want to do a little poem about, it's also a little griefy, so, you know, it's not so bad to have another little griefy moment together. It does require music. Here we go. I'm just going to move this casually over here. Hi. I'm over here now. It's the dance of the wires. Like, by the end of this, I should have a full French braid going on the floor here. Okay. Okay, and yeah, this one needs a little ukulele. So, and I picked this poem in particular because I am virtually, of course, but in Calgary right now. And, oh, here we go. Just center this. There we go. There we go. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. I'm in Calgary right now, and this is Stu Hart's town, right? The legendary creator of Stampede Wrestling. For those of you who don't know, Stampede Wrestling was sort of like the original manifestation of professional wrestling, and by professional wrestling, I mean the show, the big show, the WWE, the WWF, you know, the costumes, the soap opera, the manliest soap opera ever there was. Of course, I ate it up so much. My brother and I loved it. And This is a poem for Stu's son, Owen, and as some of you do know, so Stu created Stampede Wrestling. He was also everybody's coach. You know, he was like the guy who brought everybody up. There's a bunch of names mentioned in here. His whole basement was just like, pads, to like throw people on. And he eventually sold the Stampede Wrestling franchise to Vince McMahon, who turned it into the WWF, I believe was the first iteration, was the WWF. And so what happened to Owen, Stu's son, is especially important because he was the golden child, of wrestling, and he was a particular kind of wrestler. Bret the Hitman Hart is his more famous brother. And Bret was always about the big show, but Owen wasn't. Owen was very much a pure wrestler, to say a weird thing. But he, so this is called, oh yeah, I was going to do a little line here. This is called the Ballad of Owen Hart. Wrestling died on live TV. When it happened, my brother and I saw the cameras sway, saw them fight not to look at your fallen beauty. Owen Hart, son of Stu, brother of Jim, of Davy, of Brett, cousin of Rowdy Roddy Piper, your family trained generations of gentlemen and lady wrestlers. But that all changed May 23rd, 1999, when Owen, you climbed up 99 steps, stepped into an untested harness, and were thrown to your death in the ring. Owen, as you free fell 30 meters, what thoughts were with you as the wrestling ring came rushing, as the crowd cheered your name? Blue Blazer, who said he could fly, or Owen Hart, who trusted he would. Maybe, as you rushed at death, you touched the small razor blade in your pants. Maybe you said God's name. Maybe you thought the mat would bring your body back in a bounce. Owen, did you curse Vince McMahon, who turned your father's legacy into the mechanism of your death? Blue Blazer, that morning, you kissed your bed-headed children goodbye, lip-locked your wife, promised her you weren't going to do the stunt. How did you get from Martha's relieved embrace to dropping from the World Wrestling Federation pay-per-view? Is it because you knew that pure wrestling has no hero's reward? That pride and tradition won't put food on the table? That the Olympics only come every 4 years? But the wrestling franchise, it's on every night of the week. And to win it, you cannot be Owen Hart, who saves every dime for his family, who comes from a Canadian legacy. No, you have to put on costumes that make you feel foolish. You have to be the Blue Blazer. You have to fly. When kids wrestle now, they use shattered fluorescent tubes, folding tables, metal chairs, and ladders that lead nowhere. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's actually a I got to do that poem in my hometown of Peterborough, Ontario. We are 5th in the hate crime capital of the world. Thank you, of Canada. And third in homelessness and poverty. So great town. But we did this thing. There's this movie coming out called Out in the Ring, myself, I got to be in that ring for a filming of like a professional wrestling event, and I got to do this poem, and it was super fantastic and really, really fun. And Out in the Wrestling is about the queer history of wrestling, which, you know, not a lot of people know. I just, you know, I knew Gold Dust, and that was pretty well it. And, you know, everybody hoped that Miss Elizabeth was queer so she could get away from the men. Okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I have, what do I have? I'm just going to look at the time because I've got a few poems. How are we doing? Oh, yeah, okay. I'll do 2 more poems. They're really weird, and they won't probably make you too sad. So, and I don't want to make everybody so sad. So this is oh yeah, this is a really cool one. I'm gonna dedicate this to oh, I should mention before I get sidetracked once again that here we go. I'll just grab this. Okay, I just want to like show you this amazing book that the artist that did the front of the book, the front and the back, and everything inside, did all the copy setting and made a lot of amazing choices, is Emmy Zamira, M Sacco on Instagram, and she just does really incredible work. She and I have done multiple projects together, and all of these are like little, you know, pieces. There's the wrestlers you can see there. My dog who passed away in December is down in the lower corner there. And she just did just a really beautiful job. And yeah, I just wanted to shout out to Emmy because she's just such a dynamic artist. There we go. Sorry about that. All that. Just did a 20-foot mural of a pigeon in London, Ontario to cheer everybody up, you know. It's just hard to be happy in London, Ontario. Okay, so this is, speaking of small towns, yeah, so I'm from Peterborough, Ontario. I was in about 150 bands. And so, like, I'm always thinking about, like, you know, actually one of my bands played the Calgary Folk Festival many years ago, and we weren't asked back because of all the whiskey we drank on stage. So, but, you know, I like joining bands. I'm in a band right now called Thunderfuck Berserker. It's really great. And I'm always thinking up band names. So I did this poem, and it's called Just Some Band Names I Think Are Cool. I'm going to build some noise to go with that. So it says, to be performed with super cool garage rock music I make with my mouth, a foot tambourine, and a loop pedal. The tambourines are, I don't know where the tambourine is, but we'll just do all the rest. Okay, here we go. Okay. So first, we're going to lay down the bass line, you know? Okay, here we go. And then we'll do like a little guitar thing going on. So okay. We'll do some. We'll get the kick drum going here. All right. Okay. Here we go. Just some band names I think are cool. Your mom's hot. And like, you know, like if you bring your mom to our show, she can like get in for free. And if you're wondering if your mom's hot, your mom's hot. Thank you. Socks aren't shoes. The side effects. Our drummer sucks. The rigged awards. I wanted more for you. Pay for art. No, really though, pay for art. Buy my book. The spineless weasels. You don't deserve her. What's that smell? The has-beens. Swedish fountains are fancy. That's a Europop. That's our Europop. Lapses of reason. Solid waste. You've let your father down. The angry hopefuls. Little accidents. Adult onset. Okay, this last one is a little bit, okay, I'm just going to turn this off for a second because this last one is like a really long title, so it's probably not going to fit on our key, but like, okay, here we go, just stay with me. Okay, we're going to come over to your house, break your toilet, break your heart, borrow money, smoke your stash, call so many terrible things we do, sharing but never repay any of the damage we do because we think that we deserve more than what we get. And our heroes seem to be able to do anything they want to fans. So we want to keep up that tradition because we are afraid to show weakness or talk about why we haven't written anything new. And is this our self-hatred that will become your downfall? And yeah, we let your cat out by mistake. Can you give us that sandwich you promised us is? Thank you. Come to our show. It's going to be great. We're going to be at the Calgary Film Festival. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So I have one final thing. It does involve some ridiculousness as well. But I wanted to do, like, I actually haven't done any poems about being trans in this, you know? You're supposed to when you're a trans poet. Okay, so this is I'm So Good at Drag. To be performed with the ukulele, foot tambourine, again, I don't have the foot tambourine, thunder tube, okay, I don't have a thunder tube, musical saw, viola, basically anything that can make noise. I added this to the loop as the poem bills. Also features my cool dad dance moves. Once again, you lucky people. Okay, here we go. So, okay, we'll just do, okay, so, yeah, so for like the past 40 years, I fooled everybody in my life into thinking that I was a woman. And now I wrote this poem called, wait. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I got the doctor to put female on my birth certificate. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag that my parents called me Catherine. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. Oh, let's go again. I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I got the job and overperformed and still didn't get promoted, but I did get sexually harassed and all of my ideas stolen. I'm so good at drag that my boy band tried to pay me less than the other guys. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag, I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag. Thank you. I'm so good at drag that I am allowed to cry in public, be excused from manual labor. And when I say stuff like, I wish I could give birth, nobody laughs at me. Okay,
I just want to like stop that one and just say like I don't actually want to give birth. Like if anybody's like excited for me to give birth, it's really not going to happen, especially like 46 years old at this point. So I was just trying people who say that they want to have a baby, and even if they're like cis men, like the wanting to have a baby grow inside you is like just like a really real feeling for people. Okay, so here we go. I'm so good at drag. I'm so good at drag. Okay. I'm so good at drag that some of my cis male partners thought that we were having straight sex the whole time. I'm so good at drag that some of you don't understand what this poem is about. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shelf Life Books. This has been a real joy. And yeah, I'm gonna just go back to my original setup, and I just want to say thank you for this. I hope people had fun with this little show.
That was amazing, Charlie.
Good, thank you, Sheri-D. I had a really good time.
It was fantastic, and things in the chat bars, people saying so good. I was stoked by your book. I really love your work. You're so talented. Everybody just loved your work, Charlie.
Thank you. I'm so happy. I'm looking at the comments. Thank you, everybody, for commenting in here. You know, I know it's hard to be at these shows, and like, you know, we miss our live stages, but you know, I kind of look at this like just a new stage, right? And it's an accessible stage to so many, and so I'm really happy that that you came and shared this time with me and showed so much love. Because you know, the chat is the chatter in the room, so this was really really great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about my work? I'd like to say that there's no actual commas or periods in anything, and that's like made me feel really good. Like this is like a spoken word book, because I'm not really good at commas or periods, and I tried to keep them out of my work, and then they got back into my work and they came out of the work again. So that's been really great. And freeing, because like everybody at Brick Books is just amazing. And Elena did like the final copy edit and suggested that, and like showed me how to do these little breaks and stuff, so I don't have to do commas anymore. And now I'm like, great.
And Mary says, thank you for all of your beautiful words, poems. And Samantha asks a question. She says, or I guess I'll just say they for everyone. They say, I'm curious to learn more about the musical components. Do you change those up in different performances, or do you find one and then stick with what works on the individual poems?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I like that. I like it. Yeah, I guess like, you know, sometimes like with I'm so good at drag, I was underprepared. Normally I've got kazoos going. I've got like whatever I can grab to make sounds out of. But that one's like a really like very bizarre thing that will happen with whatever's in the room. The one like C-3PO is very particular, and it's become more particular like in the Saw part, as to how it sounds. And sometimes it evolves a little bit. Some days I'm better at it than others, you know, but those components stay the same. Some of them are really, really deliberate. The Owen Hart, you know, when I did like the little finger picking, like I know basically the sound, I don't do the same chords all the time, but if I'm not covering a specific song, then certainly I fall into whatever I'm feeling at the time, which is a really nice freedom to give myself on stage as well. And yeah, like the just some band names I think are cool is actually turned into like, that's how I do it every time now. And I was like, that's just like a really good garage rock song. So I'm just gonna keep it that. Thanks, Amanda.
And I have one question, Charlie. Was that your working title? And maybe you could say a few words about the title and tell us more about that.
Sure. That was I had 3 different ones I was looking at. One of them was I'm so good at drag. And then I thought, if I'm not actually a drag artist, I shouldn't do that. I can't remember what the other one was. So, obviously it wasn't good if I can't even remember it. Yeah, good choice not to have it. And then, as soon as I started thinking, because the funny thing about publishing as a queer artist is like, you kind of like, in a way you want to, I don't know, like I had like so many different feelings. So I was like, if it's about drag, then I will have a narrow audience. And like, I really want everybody to read this poem, and especially like straight cis guys to read this book. So I thought, I really have to, and in a way it feels weird because it's almost like I chose to closet my book in the title. I mean, certainly you can figure out it's a queer book really, really quickly and easily, but you might not have picked it up even to like look at the back and get interested in it. So yeah, very much like a, marketing ploy, because we got to do marketing, and thinking about a title that speaks to people, that makes them feel something, or, they immediately have a response. They're curious about what my take on Why I Was Late is all about. And it's also the title of one of the poems that's in there. And yeah, so the first one is, I couldn't find the right theme music, and Why I Was Late, why I wrote that poem. And I think I wrote it before I came out even, but now I was like, should I add a line? Because I feel like I'm late to the table in transness in many ways, but that's been the same for so many people like me. Yeah, I think I used to be on time all the time, and then when I went through the divorce and the death, I have been consistently late for everything. So not by bad, like 15 minutes, but I warn people in my life. I'm like, I'm probably going to be 15 minutes late to everything because I can't leave the house some days without running around it 150 times because I'm actually just avoiding wanting to leave the house at all.
Oh, that's an interesting insight into the title, and I look forward to hearing that poem. And Shannon McGuire has a question, which is
reading is really good.
Pardon?
I was just saying, I was just reading it while you're talking. I was like,
it is a really good question. You had mentioned early in the set about how the book addresses your process of unlearning misogyny. I could hear those kind of negotiations in your wrestling poem, but could you say more about the unlearning process for you?
Sure. I think a lot of my unlearning happened in getting involved in spoken word, honestly, because it is an arena where you can't ignore your weird hangups and your weird internalizations of stuff. And I think, I was always working with men, being with men, like all of my arenas were men for so long. And when I got into back into the arts and into spoken word, certainly like when I did theater before I got into film, I was working with a lot of women and stuff like that. And I was getting, starting to get better at my shit. Because the easiest way to fit in with men is to disparage women in so many areas when you're in the 90s and the 80s, right? So we're all growing up together and fucking it up and making things unsafe for the people in our lives. And certainly in film really drove it into me more because I really needed to fit in, and it is such a terrible environment for femme people. So I, roughed it up, toughed it up even more so that I would be hired back the next day. And then, when I started getting into spoken word and getting into these kinds of conversations about how we've all fucked ourselves over in all of this, I really started looking at my own actions and being like, okay, I have carried these stupid ideas with me, and I am embarrassed to have them, that women are funny or something like that. And like, and the whole time I'm being seen as a woman, and, it's a really complicated and weird thing. And I think like number one, spoken word showed me how wrong my thinking was. And and the women that were around me, just really cemented me in thinking, where the power should actually be and where the power is. And yeah, I've got I've got a poem called, Life's Easier When I'm a Misogynist. And in that, like, the final lines are, I'm still one of the guys, they're just better guys. And so, as we're in, we got past the 90s and stopped looking at like rape, rape culture being okay, and the ways I sort of like just threw myself to men all the time, and participated in misogyny, just really, I felt the more I left it, and I guess unlearning for me was facing the wrong thinking that I've had, and sticking up for women, and being present for women, and not thinking of them as something other than just thinking of them outside of what I've been told that we were supposed to be, including myself in this, because I was raised as a woman, because I never thought that for myself, and I would think that femme people are weaker, and like femme people are the strongest people in the world, and it is, I'm really proud and happy to be living in a time where we're all addressing this and are able to address it with each other and in ourselves, and do that in a constructive way, and have resources for that as well. So, and then coming out as a transmasculine person, I really, thought about who's the man I want to be, like, and I want to be someone who is safe, and I want to be someone who isn't participating in anything like that. And I haven't, and like, forever anyway. Leaving film was really helpful, and not being steeped in it anymore. And I think that's what I gotta say about it. Yeah.
Shannon is responding to your answer, and she's saying thank you for your very thoughtful and complicated thinking through all of this. And Sally O is saying so thoughtful and caring. And I think that what you just said, it brings people together in a very thoughtful and contemplative knot, and that we need to see these things and hear these things so that we can help unravel our own selves. Mary has a question or an observation, which is so cool, and then we'll get to Samantha's. She wanted to know what poems anchored the book, and so we'll get to that in a minute. But for now, we'll talk Mary's observation. In making the decision to publish a book coming out of the spoken word background, how do you negotiate ideas of permanence in having poems archived, though in a publishing process, whereas there is maybe a more ethereal quality to the performance poems on a spoken word stage?
Yeah, thank you. Just looking at that question for a little second.
So really it's, asking yourself, in spoken word, there's a certain feeling of temporariness, or in the moment it's said, and then the moment goes on. And when you publish it in a book, there's a feeling maybe of archival, in an archival feeling in the work. And so how does that feel for you as you continue as a spoken word artist?
Yeah, I think, I guess like in the editing and how it sits on the page, I think the way I sort of reassured myself about spoken word being on a page was that I think my poems read as ones that should be read out loud. I think you can hear them adding the music texture to it, or performance notes. Certainly makes it less of a page poem almost. But yeah, I mean, these, as we, as and it's funny. So I have like one of my poems is about my lisping hero, who is Mike Tyson, and his that's and it's very much a restorative justice poem. Like it was so many things, this poem, and because of at first he was still steeped in like really terrible aggressive behavior, and that's when I wrote the poem. And then he got sober and he did this movie, a documentary about his life, and I really saw who he was, and or where he'd gotten into his life, to be sober, and looking at he's had a really challenging life, to say the least. And so I changed the poem in it, that changed the ending on it, because I was like, I gotta honor who he is. So yeah, it's like, what if Mike Tyson like goes back, like now I have to let it go, almost like it's sitting in this book. If somebody gave me like notes on a poem in the book, who's a spoken word artist, I'm like, I don't know what to do with your notes at this point. It's there now. We're gonna have to be okay with it. But yeah, it's changing. Spoken word is meant to be spoken, and it's meant to have that energy. And yeah, it's a funny thing to put it in a book and agree on the syntax and the line breaks, and the fact that it's not in many ways it's, I tried to make it a living thing on the page, but I hear you. It is a funny thing to have it sort of get into a point of permanence. So yeah, it's a very different feeling. I've also, I've done page poetry, so I guess not all of these poems are spoken word either, is another point I should make, that some of them are, very carefully selected words that you have to, really look and think about. So I like those being in the same arena as the spoken word ones. And I wonder, how it reads the people, if they're like, that's a page, that's a spoken word. I wonder how that is. But yeah, thank you. I like that. It was an academic academic words in it. I'm like, oh man, I dropped out of everything. So thank you for further elaborating for me, Sheri-D, and thank you, Mary.
There are questions of what of defining temporary and permanence, and when you think of some of the great spoken word artists before it was called spoken word, like Molière or Shakespeare, it was temporarily on the page only to be lifted off. And so it's an interesting thing with spoken word, and how it's written for the oral transmission, which puts it very differently on the page. And so there are two ways of looking at reading poetry: the page poetry way and the off the page way. It's a very interesting question, Mary. And I think it's one that we all, as spoken word artists, dive into a lot in our lives. Now back to Samantha. Samantha, I don't know how to go back to your question, but I hope I get it right. So it was something. It was, did you curate the mood and the feelings in your reading tonight? And is that the same in the book? And do you have poems in the book that anchor the book? So I guess it's a good question, because then you have to go out and get the book and read those anchoring poems.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like I should have put like a intro to the book kind of thing. But I think it's like for people to discover in a way too. So, the book is in many ways it's a what do you call that when something's in order in time? Chronological, thank you. So it's like a chronological, it's chronological in many ways. So like the personal ones, like I start sort of as kids, growing up, and then move into, back to when I was a little boy, hanging out with little boys, and then growing into teenagehood, growing into adulthood, being married, and then moving into transformation. So I'm very much in drag at the beginning and out of drag by the end, and then within that there are these weird pieces, like a poem about how much I like to pop people's backsits, or like the praying mantis poem, and I sort of pepper them in, and it's in 6 parts, and I actually looked at all of them, and how I arranged each part was actually like a set. So like there's 6 sets of poetry that happen to be rooted in chronological order as well. So, I kind of almost want to do like a one set for each book launch, maybe. I think I'll try and do that one time, just to like pick a set and be like, okay, this is the set. So yeah, it's very much like it's a performer's book almost, because it's already put into performance order, and so much of it is thinking about people's emotions, thinking about the audience, and like like when you're doing a set, you always want to leave people in a place of like contemplation by the end, or a place of exuberance. If you've got a really sad poem, you need to like put another poem like to bridge over into, because you're thinking about how it's very, my audiences are always like this, and so I've done that also in the arranging of each set in the poem. Yeah.
Nice. Samantha responds with, "Oh yes, awesome." And she says, or they say, "A little parcels." And Sally O says, "Cool." And then adds intention.
Yeah, very, very muchly intentioned. Yeah. Oh, I love putting it together. Like I love arranging things, and like I love, I had like different color coding, different like feeling coding, and was it weird? Was it anomaly? So it was really fun, and then like just putting it out there and like seeing how it all looked on the floor, dropped on the floor. I love process so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, when is your next launch?
I have I'm gonna be at the Toronto International Festival of Authors, actually, which is started today. And let me just have a look. Here we go. We're at the 19th. Today's the 19th. Is it? Who even knows? Well, I guess like the next thing coming up is tomorrow. I'm gonna have a book club with Brick Books. And that's happening at 8 p.m. EST, which is 6 p.m. your time. Yes. Math. And I'm then right after that, I'm doing a Victoria spoken word feature. So that'll be at 9 p.m. My time. And and then I'm doing outdoor book launches. So I got 15 chairs. I got a camping toilet and a enclosure for that camping toilet, and some random tents that are going to be thrown up. It's the Winnebago A Go-Go tour. So this weekend I'll be in Owen Sound, and then in Flesherton. I love both those places. I'll be and I'll have Richard E. Satosky, who's the poet laureate, is going to share the stage with me. We're going to have like a little open mic for people, and then Charlie Glasspool, who was in the Silver Hearts with me, is going to be at Flesherton. And then if you want to find out the stuff I do like a monthly newsletter. You can click on it when you go to Charlie C. Petch, or find me online at Saw Poet, and I am a human billboard of shows for until November, and then and I get to rest, and it's really nice.
Well, once again, congratulations, Charlie, and thanks for inviting me in this part of your trip.
Yes.
And And I hope to see another part of your trip because I'll check it out and I'll go to your website and find it. And thank you to Shelf Life Books, to Jen, for hosting this wonderful night. And thank you, all of you, for coming to this event and staying and asking such thoughtful questions. It was a wonderful night, and I'll hand it over to Jen to say good night.